Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season finale of Aftermath. So, to me, it's kind of really hard to put into words, but this episode seemed very different from the other episodes in the season, like, tone-wise. All the episodes, naturally weird because, the entire show's premise and everything that goes down in it, it's weird. But nevertheless, like, this weird episode seemed even weirder, plus the fact, I'm sure that's kind of saying a lot. But nevertheless, it had a different tone to it to me. It seemed a little more lighthearted in a lot of aspects. Don't get me wrong, the show already had some lighthearted aspects of it, but it seemed like in this episode it was even more so, especially when it came to the whole Briana and Matt situation, which probably was like hands down one of my favorite aspects of the show, was just that story, just them going off, kind of getting all, bonding a little bit more and everything. I even love the conversation of just like Matt's like, okay, why do you have such a problem with Sarah? She's like, well, you didn't like Devin. He's like, I do now, which is, in retrospect, it's kind of very fucked up, because it's like, yeah, I didn't like the dude that you were in love with at the time, but after he sacrificed himself and died, to make sure that you stayed alive by, killing himself because he was possessed, it's like, yeah, he's awesome in my book now. I was like, that's pretty fucked up to say. But even he admits, he's like, okay, that's not cool to say. And it's just interesting just seeing them kind of, like, bonding sibling-wise. I feel like in this entire series, I feel like Matt and Brianna have bonded the most. I don't even think... it's really hard to say. There's been moments with Brianna and Dana as well as Dana and Matt, but I feel like more so than anything, it's been Matt and Brianna. I guess because technically they are the two oldest siblings, even though her and Dana are twins, but she is slightly older, so... Which she kind of looms over Dana, obviously, but nevertheless, not the point. The whole situation, I really like. The fact is she's looking away so Matt could go pee or whatever. It happens to look back. Oh, crap, you're going. Which is like, he picks the worst time to have to pee. It's like, Brianna's like, okay, the world is ending and you want to stop and piss. He's like, well, come on. It's not like the world's going to end this very second. It's like, how do you really 100% know that? Because at the beginning, Moondog brings up the fact is that they've got like 2 hours left. And let me bring up the fact is Moondog is super chill this entire episode. Just kind of like, things will work out or they won't. I don't know. It's like, we just kind of accept things as they are. It's like, 2 hours left. Let me go do something else. It's like, why do you have such a candid nature about this whole situation? Granted, I guess panicking is not going to really change anything. It's not going to make much of a difference if you sit there and panic. So I guess there's that aspect of it. But nevertheless, Brianna looks back and it's like, okay, Matt, where the hell did you go? Goes off, finds him. It's like, oh, you were with Sarah. Oh, man, I was looking all over for you. What are you talking about? Matt was being for me the whole time. I'm like, wait, what? Even Brianna's like, oh, so she's like, oh, so you weren't with me? He's like, no. What's wrong with you, Bri? And she's like, nothing. I was like, okay, so either it's a shapeshifter, or either it was a shapeshift that was with Sarah, or the fact is that there was a shapeshifter with her. I wasn't sure either way. I was like, but common sense should have told me no, it was a shapeshifter there. I there shouldn't have been any debate in my mind. It took a while because it was like the way he was acting suspicious, like, oh, we should get out of here before we die, and kind of got like a smile across his face. It took that to really make me go, oh, he's not mad. But then it was like, but common sense would tell you Sarah ran off because she literally ran off with Matt. So there was no time for them to be separated, that he could off be, But, being an idiot like I am, I didn't use common sense. And it's just like, okay. And it turns out, yes, it is a shapeshifter, because apparently the SOBs are kind of evolving, because they're like, hey, we're not going home, so we've got to learn how to adapt. Because apparently, just kind of like, what was it? The, Skinwalkers could possess fever heads, and they were very good at pretending to be human, because there was that. Well, those are two separate things, but nevertheless, like, they could pretend to be human with the whole like head of the place that Devin was from, like how he pretended to be normal the entire time. He faked it for so long, and he was like right under their noses. He was a monster, so they were just constantly evolving into this new world. Because apparently, because usually they can find out a lot about you because of your like DNA. Because I was wondering, I was like, how the hell does it know so much about Matt and his family dynamic? And I was like, oh, right. It absorbs your DNA and stuff like that. But it's like, even then, does that even really... No, because before now, like when a shapeshifter kind of takes on your form, they kind of look like you. But I don't think it really came up that they knew everything about you. At least I don't think they did. I think more so than anything, it was just kind of like, they were just kind of like, almost like mannequins like come to life. Like they were kind of stiff and rigid. They didn't really have a personality. But what we saw with this one with Matt, it had a personality and everything. So that was interesting, because apparently it was kind of interesting because apparently we didn't get to see it, but apparently there was one with Matt too, because it's like, yeah, after, okay, I happened to look away. The reason when Briana was looking away, Matt ended up finding Sarah. At least he thought it was Sarah, but it turned out to be one of them. I mean, which, you know, in Sarah's defense, because she didn't realize it was one, because she didn't really know about shapeshifters. It's kind of a Copeland special. I think only they're the only ones fortunate enough to have crossed paths with them, not once but twice. So, and also, side note, the whole reason why Sarah ran away, I kind of figured that was the case. Also, another thought that was kind of running through my mind through that whole thing, I was like, oh, that maybe she was a shapeshifter too, but it was like, no, that turned out not to be the case. Nevertheless, it was the fact is that killing those people last episode, those government agents, made her remember about the fact is that she killed her friend, so she kind of freaked out and ran away. So, but apparently, because Brianna's pissed, she's like, okay, wait, so we stopped so you could have sex? He's like, nothing happened. We made out a little bit, but then they're like, I knew she wasn't you. How? Because it's like the kissing was different. It's like, how, you know, what about the fake me? She's like, well, he was super good at kissing him. He's like, sure, get in a truck, get in a vehicle. And Brianna's like, I really like her. It's just like, shut up. So I just, like I said, I love that dynamic of just like I said, that was to me like the most lighthearted. I mean, there was lighthearted stuff throughout the episode. Like for instance, Dana shooting that dude in the ass. That was pretty good. Just because it came out of nowhere, I halfway expected her to shoot him in the head. I wasn't expecting her to shoot him in the ass or whatever. It's like, okay, you have even Josh was like, okay, so you have a gun? She's like, well, I mean, things have to change. So, I mean, why not, like, you know, why not make that something that changes? And it's like, all she did was shoot him in the butt. But still, I mean, I guess just because it was a shot from behind, I was assuming that she, like, shot him in the head or something. But it's like, Dana's super not okay with killing people, so it kind of makes sense. What other crazy stuff went down this episode? Okay, apparently that stone that Karen picked up, obviously it was going to be something special, and it is. Apparently it's a key to, I forgot what the exact word was that Moondog used. It essentially was kind of like, essentially he described it as like the navel of the universe, essentially. It's just kind of like, it could kind of be their salvation in a sense. The fact is that Karen has it. It's kind of something that happens once you have a spiritual experience. The whole thing that happened to her in the volcano, that whole delusion thing. Apparently that was her spiritual experience. Like I said, that whole monk dude kind of referenced the fact is that Karen was special. It's, like I said, in general, it seems like this family is special. Which apparently, like, Moondog tells her to, like, stop by a certain restaurant or whatever when she's driving to go look for the kids. It's called Delphine's Diner or whatever. The car ends up suspiciously breaking down, at least, like, the engine or whatever goes out just in front of the place. Goes in, meets a lady, and it's like, oh, use the key on the particular thing it's meant to be used on, which is, it's taken on the form of a pinball machine, and it's like, why a pinball machine? And she's basically like, oh, test your luck. Essentially, it won't give you the answers you want. It will give you the answers you need, essentially, to whatever it is that you want. You essentially need to know most. It will give you that information. And so, basically, what Karen ended up learning is that basically the price for what she wants, she'll have to pay. That she will be the price for whatever it is that she wants, essentially. Or turns out to be the case, but I'll get to that in a second. Other interesting things is like finding out that apparently this whole situation, because I brought it up before, like I could never tell what the show was. I couldn't tell if it was science fiction or supernatural, which a show can be both, but still usually there's two separate genres, because usually supernatural has more of can have more of a fantasy element to it. I mean, like, fantasy and supernatural kind of blend together. Rarely do you get to see fantasy and science fiction kind of butt heads together. I mean, it happens. Don't get me wrong, there are cases of that. But usually they're very hard genres to blend science and magic. I mean, like I said, some series do it, some don't. But nevertheless, it was kind of, I kept bringing it up throughout the entire season. I was like, okay, so what is this show? A supernatural / fantasy show? Is it a science fiction show? Apparently that kind of pulls into the plot, because basically the way they kind of describe it is kind of yin and yang, that basically when it comes to the waves and everything, there's the science aspects of things, and then there's the like mystical side of things, and that basically there's a medium in between that kind of meshes them together. Because apparently all this stuff that's happening, skinwalkers, shapeshifters, the white whirlwinds and stuff like that, excuse me, are all basically dimensions collapsing, not collapsing, clashing together. So all these, like, because that's what the shapeshifter brought up, the fact that they couldn't go back home, so they had to learn how to evolve and stuff like that. So that's what that's about. They're actually like, so basically they're all connected essentially. Kind of think of it like, I'm not going to use that as an example because I'm not trying to cross TV show strings, but essentially the barriers between all the different dimensions are kind of breaking apart as the worlds kind of lean and come together. That's why things like Quetzalcoatl's, skinwalkers and shapeshifters exist, while these like things that normally aren't there are the reason why things are happening, the reason why time is all screwy and everything. But when it was all said and done, they came up with the ultimate plan, because they were like, okay, they ended up using the machine to basically read those cards that the professor lady gave to Josh, and basically it kept saying like, oh, the end of the world is not, the end of the world is not, the end of the world is not, and then they realized, I was like, oh yeah, the message is weirdly designed. It's saying that this is not the end of the world, because essentially there are 3 phases to this whole situation. Like the whole wave situation, there's going to be 3. This first wave can be survivable. They just have to find a way to survive it, which they do, because they come up with the idea. It's like, hey, we use the Tesla towers to pull in the wormholes, the white whirlwinds, essentially, is how I like to refer to them. Why? Because I actually like the name. I think it's kind of a pretty badass name. I mean, it's very befitting too, but, you know, now that I think about it, after hearing them use the term wormhole, I was like, oh yeah, wormhole is a much better word. I mean, it kind of describes the whole situation. But nevertheless, it's like, oh yeah, people use summon wormholes to basically suck up the falling debris from the moon. And it does work, mainly because Karen helps kind of get the Tesla tower back at, you know, full power and everything. Sadly, that means it ends with her getting sucked up into the sky. Well, sucked into one of them. And it ends with the Copelands being like, okay, like, you know, freaking the hell out. And Matt's kind of like, she's dead. And everyone else is like, no. And Briana's like, you found me, we'll find her in some shape or form. Which it's totally possible, because let's not forget the people that got sucked up into Seattle, they did get spit out. They're kind of in like a pocket dimension of whatever. I mean, maybe, I don't, like, I'll go ahead and say I don't know if this show is getting renewed for a second season or not. Like I said, sci-fi usually lets you know ahead of time with a situation like this, like, oh, expect. So I don't know. I hope, because I really do like this show, but the fact is they didn't say anything. You know me. I don't like knowing. I'm scared. I hate looking up and being like, oh yeah, this show got canceled. I don't like looking it up. So usually I won't know a show is coming back until the last minute when it pops up. Like, hey, yeah, because I totally never went back that should look that up, because I'm weird like that. It's kind of one of my things. I'm sorry, but if you are curious, do look it up yourself. If you want to tell me, you can. I mean, but it's just, I just don't like finding out a show is canceled. I don't know why that hurts me a lot, especially when it's a show that I like. This show is weird and crazy and hard to follow at times, but it's still very enjoyable. So I do hope they'd come out for second season. Kind of like to see what they do, especially because the fact is there are 2 more waves. So it's like you prevented the end of the world, but it seems like there's 2 more waves that's coming to end the world. So it's kind of like, I got to try and stop them too. And the fact is, like, what would that mean with these new waves? There's so much that was brought up in this season that was never really explained, like what an adept is. I mean, really the best way to kind of explain it is someone who knows stuff that they really don't know how they know it. It just kind of comes to them. There's that whole situation with Josh's dad, like what that situation's about. There was that lady that Matt met back at Josh's dad's house. Like, apparently I forgot what it was that Josh said she could be. Matt never really brought it up. I don't think he ever told anyone about it. He's just kind of like, let's just forget that happened. The lady who he ended up killing, like, her abusive husband or whatever, and like when he did, he turned into water and splattered all over the floor. And a lady that kind of took an interest in Matt, like, turned out to be some kind of thing that basically what Josh described it as, like a creature that basically will take your bones and drag it to the bottom of the sea, or drag you to the bottom of the sea and then take or eat your bones or something like that. There's some kind of creature like that. So I don't know. I'd be curious to see what other things you'd get to see in the show. Also, like, what would happen with Karen? Will we get to see the other side of that dimension? Because, like, the fact is, everyone that's there never really, like the Seattle reporter lady, like, she didn't really know what was happening. She just kind of, like, remembered, because she didn't remember the in-between. She just remembers being sucked up in Seattle and then popping up in, what was it, Idaho? So, And what will happen with Moondog? Will he still keep up with the radio situation? Will he help them out? Would he kind of join the Copelands as trying to figure this whole thing out? Would like the Tesla Tower place be like their base of operation? Will they continue being on the road? Many questions. Side note, the whole situation with Sarah, it ended up a lot. I mean, granted, I mean, if there is a second season, I mean, we don't know if things will continue to work out that way. But I mean, it's like Sarah made it to the end of the season. I mean, so that's pretty good. I mean, granted, she was only with them for like, she joined them like 2 episodes ago, but still, like, the fact is, like, she didn't die. I mean, granted, it took Devin and Martin a little while, so it's like, give it a chance for them to strip away Matt's happiness too. Because, like, oh, we already screwed over Dana and Briana. It's like everyone, now because of what happened to Karen, it literally happened to Josh too. So it's like Matt's the only one that's semi-okay at the end of the season. Everyone else got screwed over now. Like, because I was wondering, I was like, because Josh couldn't, because I was wondering what it would be. The fact is that, like, the price Karen would have to pay. I figured, you know, it was literally saying you would be the price to get what you want. So I was like, I thought she was gonna have to, like, she sacrificed herself to a certain extent. I mean, she's still alive, but I don't know. I mean, because of the whole Seattle lady situation, Karen can pop up again somewhere, but as we know, those wormholes open up all the time. So it might be a situation of like the family tracks her down, but she gets sucked up before they can get to her, and stuff like that. Because I don't know. Just overall, very good episode. Just obviously still weird and crazy as usual, but I would be like I said, I'd be very interested to see what they would do with the second season. So, but really, that's all I wanted to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.